What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm absolutely honored to introduce you all to ritual abuse, mind control, and organized abuse survivor and overcomer, TikTok whistleblower, inspiration and content creator, Ramkoa educator, warrioress of redemption, and someone I'm honored to call my friend, Charlotte. A little bit about Charlotte and what we will be discussing on today's episode. Charlotte was born on December 28th, 1987, a date that was never meant to be random. Delivered prematurely and fighting for her life in an incubator, she entered the world already fractured from her mother, already marked. What looked like a medical emergency was, she later understood, the first deliberate trauma in a bloodline that had been perfecting the art of breaking children for at least 4 documented generations. On her mother's side, the lineage is a dark tapestry of high-ranking Navy officers, 33rd degree Freemasons, Shriners, and the sinister Royal Order of the Jesters, an elite invitation-only circle within Shrinedom, notorious even among insiders for its depravity. Benicia, California was the family seat, the place where Charlotte was taken into caves as a small child and experimented on, programmed, and trafficked. Her father's side is no less shadowed. A Princeton-educated genius recruited by the U.S. government on campus, he walked straight into a classified Department of Energy contract and spent his career as a chief engineer for a secretive megacorporation that built countless major projects across the world. His own father fled Chicago one step ahead of the mafia, thinking Florida would be far enough, but it wasn't. The trafficking corridors that claimed Charlotte's childhood ran exactly between those two states, Florida and California, the twin poles of her nightmare. Gifted almost cruelly, Mensa-level intellect, intuitive abilities that made her a perfect candidate for off-books extensions of programs like Project Centerlane and Monarch, she was enrolled in gifted and talented education programs while simultaneously being trafficked, ritually abused, and programmed both at home and in organized outside operations. The sexual exploitation ended when she aged out, but the surveillance, the gang stalking, the psychic harassment never fully stopped. 10 years ago, the memories began flooding in earnest, and not soon after, the full scope of the heinous abuse she survived crashed over her like a second birth. Today, Charlotte stands whole, not because the abuse made her strong, but because the strength was always there, forged in a soul that refused to break even when every system conspired to shatter it. She is furious, radiant, taking her power back and done hiding. She speaks now for the ones still silenced, for the children still in the caves, for the little girl who once lay in an incubator wondering why the world already hurt so much. She is now building something fierce, a platform, a network, a legal reckoning for those who still believe they're untouchable. She wants every survivor who hears her voice to remember they were never weak. They were simply born into a war no child should have to fight. Charlotte is living proof that the bloodline curses can be broken, that the programming can be rewritten, and that even the darkest fractures can heal into something unbreakable. She is not a victim. She is not a survivor in the soft, palatable sense. She is a reckoning, and she is only getting started. Before wrapping up the introduction of today's guest, I'd like to share just a couple quick reminders and updates. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you wanted to share any information privately with me, or if you are interested in submitting a written testimony to be featured in a Substack article, you can reach out to me via email at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com or standbysurvivors@protonmail.com. I'm also now streaming new episode premieres weekly on my YouTube channel at the Imagination Podcast Official. Turn on your notifications and join our loving community in the live chats every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Central Time. Thank you all wholeheartedly for helping to make the Imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor, whistleblower, advocate, and educator disclosures. Your support means the absolute world to me and to every single guest on the show. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming today's guest of honor, voice for the voiceless, walking miracle, overcomer and thriver, survivor and anti-child abuse advocate, and an absolutely incredible woman who is using social media to shine a light on the darkness and to set the captives free. The one, the only, Charlotte. Charlotte, it is an honor to have you on today. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much. There's so many things I want to say. And well, first of all, what really came to my mind is I was really worried about talking about Bechtel, which is a big corporation my dad worked for. But like, I'm coming for you, Bechtel, to sound creepy, but we're coming for you. We're going to do a deep dive. Fuck you, Bechtel. Stop it. Just stop the evils you're doing on so many levels. So I do a lot of collages, which helps parts inside talk to one another. And I've been collecting some stuff, and one just popped out randomly. I usually put it away, and it says never doubt yourself.
Oh.
So I thought that was a God shot, if you will, or universe shot, where like a great reminder for both of us and every survivor who sees this: never doubt yourself. Doubt is a huge part of the mind control programming. It's a huge part, because the biggest lie they tell us is we aren't powerful, but we are so powerful. Like, they would not work so hard to silence us and to try to control us if we weren't so fucking powerful. Like, there exactly. You go. Oh, will you say, if you remember the exact quote of what the survivor said about the weapon? Like, they honed the weapon.
Yes. I interviewed a girl many times. Her name's Carrie Olahe, and she said an absolutely incredible line, one podcast that like really stood out, and so many people commented on it and caught it, and it sort of became this like really inspirational quote. But she essentially said, when you're a child, they instill so much fear into how you view your abusers, and so you're under this control, but you also have this trauma bond, but at the very core of that control is fear. And she was like, it's awesome. Now, after all this healing that I've done, I know if I were to see my abuser and walk by him on the street, that he would be scared of me, that they forged a really fucking sharp weapon and now it's pointed back at them. And she's like, I could walk by him and just feel totally free and feel good. And I know he would now be the one terrified and shaking when he saw me. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, that is exactly how it should be. We shouldn't be scared of these, of course it's scary. Like this is like a mafia, these people are the network, but they're fucking cowards. What, they pick on kids? Like, these are like the most cowardly, like just psychopathic people that, as adults now, like, I'm so excited and like it's so cool seeing so many of you overcoming that and just being like, no, fuck you. Like, you guys are like little coward bitches,
They're such little coward bitches. I mean, they still scare me. Like, they're still like real things, and they're such pieces of shit loser, but like, they are the loserest of the losers. They try so hard to convince you that they're cool. That's another pathetic thing. If you're cool, you don't have to prove it. Like, you don't have to keep trying. Like, billionaires are so cool. Like, people who have control over other people are so. No, you're a loser.
You're a loser. I'm a 33rd degree Freemason. I'm so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. How much dick did you have to suck to get? I'm sorry, that was because it's not, no hate on sucking dick, okay? Like, but you know what I mean. Like, they didn't get there by being good people. Like, you tortured innocent people to get to certain places that you think is cool, and it's not.
100%. Yes. And so, it's just really neat seeing so many of you just like stepping back into that empowerment and like taking that power back and reclaiming it and being like, no, all these things that I was conditioned for, all the talents that I was born with, all the things that I was recognized for, everything that I spent time developing, I'm going to use it for what I want to use it for now. And it's no longer going to be used for your dark agendas. Like, that's cut off. And now I get to go use these things to make the world a better place, to help people, to heal, to create love and compassion, and also to get justice ultimately, and I know, like, you've come such a far way in your journey. It's so amazing reading the material that you sent about your story, a bio that you had sent, and just rereading that over and over and familiarizing myself with some of the locations and some of the companies and things that you named in it. I just couldn't believe what you went through and survived, and to meet you and to see you smiling and to see you just, out there speaking out and with confidence and all the healing that you've had to do. And I know it's not always easy, but man, that little girl that you once were is just freaking like beaming at who you are today, that you became. You broke the cycle for her. Like, you did what nobody else did for her. It's just like, it's amazing. I'm just so proud of you.
I'm almost speechless, but just the beauty you just brought and everything you just said, it feels so good to hear that. And it's nice to be able to feel the good and not have a super backlash inside of like, because it's harder for me to take in good things than it is, and healing things than it is like negative things. And I think that's, well, it is by design of abusers. They do everything they can to hinder anything that would make your life enjoyable, that would calm your nervous system, that would help you in healing. They try to pervert that, which brings me back to the honing your weapon. A lot of the things they use, like for nefarious purpose, but also, well, they just pervert it and they hone it. That's stuff that's going to help you heal. And they try to associate it with bad things so you don't want to touch it, and they try to hide it. Just all these things. But back to what you just said is that someone said I get to be my younger self, her hero. And that is such an honor. That is such an honor. And so, and I get to tell her story that she could never tell, you know, and all the other alters inside, like we get to, it's just really, really cool. And that also brings me to how freaking fortunate I am. Most survivors don't get to this point. They don't. Like I have a excruciating times. Like I'm not saying every day I struggle, and a lot of survivors never get to like even bond with an animal. I have dogs. Like they don't get that. I know for the longest time, like even when I had pets, I felt just so disconnected from them, and so like they hated me. My mind was just convincing me, and then my body would feel the same way, that they hated me, even though they had a special bark for me. You know, like it's clear, but that's something that gets perverted. Is everything good? You know, any sort of human connections, it's so fucked with throughout your life, and then the programmed mind control stuff is just gonna take you away from all that's good, even if you're living within so much love. You can't feel that, and that is absolute torture, and that's by design. So I feel very, very grateful that even maybe my success doesn't look like what mainstream is supposed to be or whatever. I actually consider myself very successful. It's just a different way. Now that I also want to be clear. So I am very public. I'm still like finding my voice, because there's a lot of stuff that's really, it's just, you know, like it was hard enough when the incest started. The father, you know, my dad raping me, and those memories were the first ones to really become apparent 10 years ago or 11 years ago. Well, even before then. Apparently alters that I was not in contact with were talking to therapists about being raped by her dad before 11 years ago. And I thought that we had just started telling about it. And we even talked about things like him drinking our pee. That was a big thing. And he'd tell, yeah, they do weird things. He'd like, I don't know how the pee ended up in his cup, but he'd let us know. We must have peed in it. And then he'd be like, well, now you're with me all the time. He. And I'm autistic, ADHD and autistic together combined, which is also by design, especially with like GATE program and Project Gateway and all that stuff. And it's been proven that there's more DMT in autistic people who are autistic therapy. I don't know why they studied this, and so there's because they were trying to see certain ways an autistic's mind like works in terms of like certain dissociation and stuff like that. And apparently autistics have more DMT in their system, like active in their system. So I guess that's how they ended up finding the pee thing. So I only speculate as an adult, maybe he thought he'd get high on it, but also just a weird perversion. But he'd just drink it in his morning like booze. Yeah, it's disgusting, right? Like I have memories of that. So apparently I was telling therapists like many years before I thought I had the memories come back about something that egregious. So what else had I told people throughout the years?
That is, you know, you hear these little things that people have such a hard time believing, but these are such consistent little like degrading nuances that happen in these families. And it's like their parents did these weird things to them, whether the same or something just as strange and bizarre and like disgusting, but different. And it's just, you know, it's so like the levels of depravity that exist that like you're exposed to so young is just completely unfathomable, you know, for most people wouldn't experience something like that in their entire lifetime of like somebody meeting somebody with a perversion like that. Like you might see it on like a weird TV show or something, or like maybe see like a video online or like a TikTok or something of like something weird, but you don't really ever like come in contact with these people. It's like we share it's like there's like two different species of humans. There's like this psychopath and then there's like the non-psychopath class. And like we're all like inhabiting the world together, except the non-psychopaths don't know that the psychopaths are just like here with us, but they are. Like these people are like, they're high ranking in companies, they're working for the government, and like they have a nice suit on, they say all the right things, and they go home and they're doing these things to their kids. And it's just like, it's why it's so important that we talk about this, because people need to understand, you know, psychopathy and how, you know, the dual personalities and like how people can show up differently, that there are different types of people in the world that aren't your quote unquote like normal person, you know, that doesn't do these things. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm really sorry that those things happened to you as a kid. It's just disgusting.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you just said, because I fully agree. Like my life does seem like a movie. Like a lot of survivors, you listen to it, and then it's also like presented to the mainstream as this is only something sensationalized. Like you talked about, part of the podcast, this is to humanize us and be like, this is not just some movie. These are real people's lives. Like it's just. So thanks for platforming it in this way. Like it's so important. And even I'm like, look at the stuff I have memories of, including that pee thing. And I'm like, no way, but it did happen, is happening. And that's also part of the mind control. I don't think he was just trying to get high off of it. It's part of the mind control of you're inside me. We're always together. Therefore, everything I do, so all these depraved things he's doing, you're responsible for too. Yes. We're never going to not be bonded. And I have access to every single fluid and every single part of you. So it's just a complete nasty, like it's not, you know, it's multi-purposes why these freaks do it. And that brings me to something of some of his history that I know. His dad was a piece of shit. I mean, you read about the mafia thing and how there's
let's talk about the family background. Let's go.
I know we're gonna get into that. Yeah. But something about the psychopathy I want to know is his dad was the hardest on my dad in terms. So definitely physical abuse, but definitely emotional abuse is a huge part of why my dad became, or I mean, there's also gender roles and the ways people, I think there's reasons men tend to be the ones they have more opportunities for power, plus their genes, but also tends to be more testosterone, more violence. But it's mainly encouraged by society in general, bobbly bloop bloop blop. But a huge component I've noticed of people's stories I've heard is emotional abuse and neglect is one of the biggest factors of a psychopath being brought into the world and doing the things they do, especially when they're singled out as the worst, like given the most. Like there's so much, there's just so much. And that's not always so, because they use those same tactics. Like, you know, I have a lot of emotional abuse, neglect, and I was very targeted. Like, yeah, no one in my family escaped abuse and we all had our roles, but it was very targeted on me. And I didn't turn out to be a piece of shit. Like my every fiber of my being, like I used to nanny this little precious boy starting at age 4, and I had to help him with a bath. And I was terrified that something inside me was going to just be like a rapist and in any way attracted or have any sort of pull to hurt him when I saw him naked. I had the complete opposite. Like it was nice to know, because I'm so afraid that I'm bad and I'm going to do these things. I had nothing but wanting to protect this little baby. Like there's no, like natural human things do not want to hurt children.
Yes.
I think people who hurt children, it's actually the antithesis of what an actual person is. So anyways, to get back to, and one other thing to note, my dad, so charming, everyone fucking loved him. Everyone had nothing but nice things to say about him. He's so intelligent, such a great speaker, made everyone feel very special, which is very cult-like, because a lot of my family does not, like my mom's sisters, they don't want to acknowledge what happened because they say things like, your dad was the only one who made me feel like I was worth anything, which is
Oh,
actually, which is like, oh, but that's cult-like behavior. That's him
yeah.
culting, isolating. I'm the only one who makes you feel good. Don't
Yeah.
listen to anything else. And by the by, I mean, when we get into why I speak up, like we're going to talk about it kind of closer to the end in this, why I speak up though is I didn't want to ever tell for like the mind control reasons, silencing, but also I never wanted to ruin my family's relationship with my dad because I knew how important he was in terms of their self-esteem, especially my siblings. More has come out with their stuff they're remembering, but because I didn't want to ruin some of the best things in their life. That did squash my story, but my sibling ended up looking in one of my private diaries that talked about the rape of my dad, and then he told my aunts, and then and they wanted to sue me for libel. Cat's out of the bag. Try to sue me,
Um,
bitches. Try. No, I mean it. Like, come at me. There's no way you're gonna win this. Like, there's 0% chance. I have witnesses too. Like, it's just like, come on, bro. Would you like to all the everything? Sadly, I do. Well, sadly and also validatingly so, I do have external cooperation. I really wish, like, not a video, although I do plan on submitting my picture to the FBI to see if I'm a Jane Doe somewhere in some of their films and stuff. I highly suspect I am. I mean, also the FBI sketch, so I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know if that's even worth a try, but there are some, I don't know. I don't know. More will be revealed. But the point being is, I'm not worried about being sued for libel or anything. Plus, he's dead. So, like, he can't sue someone who's dead for libel, or they can't sue you or whatever. But they kind of fucked themselves over with that one because that's part of the reason I speak out loud is because they ruined their own thing. Like, I used to feel really bad, and I did. There's a lot of go contact, no contact, and that's complicated too. So
Oh,
I'll talk about that later. But anyways, back to some history. Is that so on my mom's side, there are so a huge part. So like it looks so innocent, right? Because there's a lot of Freemasons out there, right? There's a lot of Shriners out there. And like we talked, oh, there's so much I want to say. So much I want to say, but I'm trying to stay a little focused. Um, as you and I, we previously talked about probably a vast majority of Shriners and Freemasons are misogyny and racism aside, because of their separate but equal doctrine, and then like no, so many boys clubs exist and they don't let women in there, but that's very by design. My
yes.
mom became a lawyer, like a higher up lawyer of a certain company that's not involved in my abuse, although they're probably pieces of shit, but she was protecting corporations, so all these things, but they had a lot of connections to boys clubs, so like Freemason Shriners, but there's
Mm,
even what is it? The Bohemian Club Grove has a club. They have their own little club and stuff like that. So there's a lot of boys clubs. And so they would have her enter the back door and hide. So they actually let a woman in there. Yeah, which is like, oh, cool, she went in, but like they had to pretend essentially she wasn't a woman to get her in there. That's misogyny, and that's really weird. That's weird. That's real weird, right?
really weird. Yes.
Yeah. What are you gonna say something?
No, just that really is weird. And it's interesting, just so much of what you and others experience as children, it's so normal, right? Like hearing maybe Bohemian Grove or hearing Bechtel or hearing Freemason. These are so common in these Ramkoa stories that this is just how life was. You just have family members that are in these mega corporations or that work in high up in government or whatever it is, these different places in society that are important for key reasons for the cult. And then it's only until later that you can look back and like the things that seemed so random, it's like, holy crap, like none of this random. This was all like set up generation after generation and like passed down. And these opportunities were given because of the connections that my family had. And it can be really overwhelming to like piece this together. And I think without having a lot of help, it's amazing the evidence,
Yeah.
documentation, and the history that you've been able to extract really, by yourself about your family for so long, because it's really important that we share this part of it. This type of abuse, it's not typically something that comes from healthy lineages of families, and then all of a sudden one parent is just like, hey, let's just throw our kid in these things. That's what society thinks. And it's really important that we educate on
oh, I didn't even think about that.
historical type thing. Like, this is something that runs in a family. It's a family business that you give your children up for, you know, purposes that are used behind the scenes, and then they get groomed to do things in public too. You know, and your family history is a really good example of how all that worked, how your father can be placed in a high up position in the Department of Energy, working for, you know, these different companies, how Bechtel is such a big part of your family. And then you have the Freemason side, but your father's like this charming, amazing person publicly. And again, behind the scenes, the things that he was doing, going home and abusing his daughter and doing these really depraved things. And, you know, it's important for people to just see how this happens, that there's so much grooming and there's so much programming and there's so much duality with how they condition one person to have so many different roles in life, you know, and your family just really illustrates that well.
Yeah, it thank you for saying all of that. Another weird thing, just kind of absorbing everything you said, because it really is like that really was my normal. I'm like, this is just, and then of course my whole family's like, this is just what the family does. This is just what we do. We're just smart, and we go to Dartmouth and Princeton, which is true. Like, once you get into these things, you're more likely to be able to get into them again. Opportunity, right? So you're more likely to be connected. So on my mom's side of the family, we have that's where the Freemason, the Shriner, and the Royal Order of the Jester situation comes into, and Bechtel. Bechtel is on both sides of my family. But it's more interesting, well, not just that they climbed up, but because I asked my family when I was starting to really suspect. So, like, probably like 12 years ago, I asked my family at one of the dinner table things for Christmas or something like that, hey, do we have any like Freemasons in our family or any sort of society like that? And then everyone there was like, no, we don't. Like, Charlotte, that's crazy. Like, literally, just you're crazy. Literally, words like this. That's crazy that you think that's a thing in our family. Like, no, we don't have that. And then come to find out, my step grandma. So this is just mom's side. I'm gonna try to focus on her step grandpa. So the grandpa I knew. So my grandpa's his dad was a Freemason, Shriner, up to Royal Order of the Jesters, right? And so the fact my family was gaslighting me about that, and it wasn't that they did not, so they did know. It's not that they were gaslit into not knowing. They knew, because I found after my grandpa died, I did this whole like archaeological dig, like in secret. I'd go to my grandparent, because my grandma died, my grandpa died on it's my mom's side. And after he died, I went and was like, I know I have to find any documents I can to prove my, and I was just going secretly. I told no one in my family I was going. It is interesting to note that I got some phone calls like there, and they would come in threes, which is noticeable. Other survivors have. So I knew they knew I was there. And by they, I mean whoever, whatever the fuck, the gang stalking is real kind of stuff. That just is a thing. But it was weird. And also note, he had an old-timey radio, not a phonograph or whatever those things are that are real creepy. But it kept turning on and playing weird music. And you talk about the psychic attack stuff. Like, they psychically turned that on. And it wasn't like a new technology that like this is easier to get in contact with than like the radio he had. I don't know. It was weird. Basically, these things were pretty obvious to me, but I went without my immediate family, who could have come physically to take me out of the house. And I found just laying around. It was laying around in photo albums that we look at frequently. Like, our family looked at. We got the 33. If you see it, the Freemason thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got that. It says 33 degrees. So my my step grandpa's his grandpa, I mean his dad, documentation that he was a 33-degree. It goes up to 32 in documentations, but I know he got to 33. But I'll show you. I'll probably, when we do the deep dive on Freemason stuff, I'll show. But I find all these official documents of him being a Shriner, right? And like way up. So he was a 3rd-degree Mason that went up to 33 degrees in Shrinedom. And there's all these letters where he's talking to his wife, or his wife is talking to, so my grandpa's dad's mom, talking about his exploits in being a Shriner up to like 27 degrees, and then she stops. Oh wait, she's the one that gets murdered. That's the thing we'll get on in a second. So, or that's my theory, but I'm almost 100% sure. So this is a side note. I was reading all their things, and she started talking about him being a Freemason. He works up to Shriners, and so they were very open about it. My great grandpa, and really proud of it. And then they stopped talking about it all of a sudden, which is really, that's also sus. But he, per documentation, this stuff I found, he was in it up to Royal Order of the Jesters, and we'll talk about that in 1 second. Yeah, it's really fucking weird. It was sus. So basically, that proved to me that it got more evil, and they got more quiet. There's a reason people stopped talking about it. He did weirder and weirder things, right? And more illegal, and he got so powerful that he started up from the bottom in Shell Corporation, and then it started. There's a picture I have with him and the CEO of Shell. Yeah, no, all of a sudden this guy who came poverty is chilling with the CEO. Yeah, and they're just shitting the shot. Yeah, I'll have to find that to put either here or the other one when we talk about Bechtel and oil companies and stuff. It's insane, right? And that's another thing on my mom's side. My family story is that the only Bechtel tie is my dad on my obviously dad's side. But then I find, when I'm going through that archaeological dig, I find proof that my mom's dad worked for Bechtel, and he has something signed by Bechtel Senior. So Bechtel's actually on both sides. Yeah, like the high up people.
Oh my gosh.
What? Like, it's a little too, like, this is all sus. And it also sucks that this is me piecing together my life. That is like by design and another form of torture for survivors. Like, there's self-gaslighting, and my life is so fragmented that I'm like ferociously, feverishly trying to find anything to figure out my life.
Gaslighting you.
Yeah. Oh, so that, again, the weirdest part, that they're like, no, Bechtel, he was just a long haul truck driver. No,
No
he wasn't.
Freemasonry.
Oh yeah, 0 Freemasonry. Oh, oops, he went to the third, like he went all the way 33rd, and then he went to the secret exclusive Freemason part. You know what I mean? Like, he was deep in it.
And that one's invite only too, like what you were saying, for the Royal Order of the Jesters.
Oh yeah, we'll do our deep dive too, which I'm super stoked about. But yeah, I found that this and the other documentation, the other Freemason documentation stuff, and was like, oh, okay. And I started shaking when I saw it, because it validated what I remembered that my family was gaslighting me about. I almost threw up. Like, it validated. And also, I have memories of them putting a Shriner fez on my head, like my aunts, who are the one who told me, hey, none of this is a thing. Like, and even in my there's just so many things that, looking back, I'm like, you fucking liars. And that makes it more suspicious. Like, you should have just been like, yeah, okay. Lots of Nazis, by the way, of the Shriner higher up, but definitely Royal Order of the Jesters. There's a document on here of the great grandpa who Shriner, he openly talks about being a neo-Nazi, and he's just like, yeah, and he's talking to his Royal Order of the Jester friends. Yeah, no, he's like, ha, we're neo-Nazis. Like, what does he say? Like, he talks about, it's comical, because this is how it's insane. So anyway, so I find this the 33 degrees stuff and the other documentations, and I'm shaking. And then I come across, and he had his Shriner sword around, and the fez. Like, there's so many things that I feel is like,
never happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't mind this documentation lying around the house. Fucking fuck asses. So anyways, then I find, and I'm like, what the fuck? Because I had never heard of Royal Order of the Jesters. Can you see it? I know it's backwards, but it says property
No,
of
it is
Royal Order of the
actually frontwards
Jesters.
on my end.
Oh, good, good. Oh, good. And then do you see, I believe it says Honolulu, Hawaii, or Hawaii somewhere?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Honolulu. So then I see that little stamp, that little little clue to my life. And I look into it, and Royal Order of the Jesters is the upper echelon, like invite only. They only invite. They're so cliche with like perverted occult stuff. I do believe you can do a lot of spirituality that can be helpful as long as, like, for me, I bring in angels and stuff. But we can talk about that later because I don't look at me trying to not trigger. Whew. There's so much to say. But anyways, looking up the Royal Order of Jesters, 13 a year is, and you invite only. Yeah, it's 13 a year that are allowed to be internationally invited. I don't know if it's actually international. I know they probably have ties internationally, but I don't know if it's only like America, because America, something like that. But 13 a year are allowed from Shriners. So Shriners is international. So they choose whoever they already involved. They choose from what? Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Shriners? 13 a year. It's still in existence, by the way.
Yes.
So anyways, I found that my that grandpa guy or great grandpa guy, he has all these piano songs. Like it's gross. And a lot of the songs, like, like his little piano thing. And some of our altars have a lot of things that, we'll probably have to do. I mean, we will have to do part 2 of my story and stuff, but have to do with songs and becoming cartoons, like thinking they are cartoons by design. Yeah, there's some memories I have of how they do that. And it's a recorded thing where it's like a pressure thing. And then this pop things that happen. And then the child is made to think they're a cartoon. So they think they're 2-dimensional. And there's with like this, they have a whole thing like this, they do. And so Lolita has been dancing on things like this that look like this with like a Mickey Mouse thing. I know I sound like I'm on acid, and I probably was at the time. Like they probably, but no, it's insane. So anyways, pianos and specifically seeing these things are very part of triggering programming. So the little kid performs for the audience or whatever. And a lot of these songs, like what is it? Someone's in the kitchen with Dino or Dinah. These are songs that are very programming. So if I hear it, somebody comes forward, does what they're meant to do. A lot of it's performance based. A lot of stuff happened in San Francisco and in Palm Beach, Florida, where certain altars, specifically Lolita, and then her altars, because she's very fragmented too inside of her own psyche, if you will, were made to perform, specifically like Project Monarch type of stuff, and involving neurolinguistic programming. So like, which is just like honed in mind control. It's like a God, I can't wait until we do the neurolinguistic thing. Because sorry, there's just so much I want to say. So it's just gonna come out. But neurolinguistic programming, the US government, most aren't even classified. And I think that's by design too, because they're about neurolinguistic programming. Obviously, they have a lot of secret stuff they're doing with neurolinguistic programming, cough, cough, Project Monarch again, and Gateway and all those things, or, all those things. But there's a lot of information out there about neurolinguistic programming that's very positive, and it's supposed to help you pick the best candidates for certain types of roles in the Army and in the Navy, and how to build up confidence per neurolinguistic programming. But it's utilized, what they're actually utilizing these things for is to push beyond natural human capabilities for war purposes. And that's going to kill a lot of people because you're fucking over your nervous system, like big time. And that's what they're working on. But they make it look all benign and sweet and stuff. But it's absolute proof that they are experimenting and working on neurolinguistic programming. So that's what the government. And then organized abuse, who traffic children, which we know a lot of that's interlaced. But even if they're not interlaced with the US government, they also use neurolinguistic programming to silence the child in terms of you will be raped, and then we're going to silence you. One of the biggest neurolinguistic programs, just a side note, is a certain natural eye movement people do naturally. And when it triggers me, I don't want to, well, no, I'll just say it. Everybody does it. It's literally just looking slightly, because it's set up in like quadrants or whatever. Like, it's so crazy how they do it. And so when they look a certain side to the left, a certain side, every time it triggers, because my therapist does it naturally, everybody does it naturally. And so every time it triggers shame, every time. And then I fall. And so my abusers used it intentionally in terms of like, they do it just like they knew they can do it, they do it. But it's also a natural thing, everybody does. And so that's perfect for them to like be torturing me constantly and reinforcing the silencing thing. Because I kind of used to think like, oh, that just means they're using it for purposes of this. No, they're keeping, like, it's a constant. So that sucks. It's constant. But now that I'm aware of it, I'm able to work through that, which is really cool. So you can like work on it. I have a lot of other things, but like, for example, some people, bananas is a trigger, it's just something benign. So you're going to see bananas all the time, right? So an abuser group doesn't even have to put a banana down for you and intentionally put it anywhere. You're just going to go to the grocery store, see bananas, and not even realize why you're feeling like shit. One of the reasons you're feeling like shit, So anyways, I digress. So we got the Royal Order of the Jester people, which again, most of the information is wiped from the internet. Like in their little like barren wiki page, it even says they're really good at wiping out everything for the most part. There is, however, I believe a 2012 case that someone tried exposing them, like literally tried suing them, brought it to the FBI. They have the official documents where they said, hey, they're trafficking people, bringing them across state lines for prostitution purposes, and internationally, they're definitely raping children internationally. So we got that. Sorry, allegedly, whatever. I say allegedly because the case got thrown out. And there's pictures of the old creepy Royal Order of Jester guys with these, I think they're in Vietnam, like Vietnamese children. And the Vietnamese children, like their legs are open, underwear, but the guys are just like, it's disgusting. And of course, because they're so powerful, the case got thrown out. And then there's other whistleblower people who talk about it, like they just do weird shit together. Like when they sleep with prostitutes, it's never about sex. Even when they sleep with, like, say they have a wife and they're sleeping with their wife or something in a more normal way, I don't think they have sex ever. Like, it's always about power. I think at one point it just goes, because rape is about power. It's not about like sex. It's the antithesis of sex, if anything. But I really think these people get to a point where they're not even capable of having sex. Like, it's always just about power in a weird way. And so anyways, there's been whistleblowers about Royal Order of the Jesters who talk about how depraved they are. And a lot of Shriners don't want to be affiliated with the Royal Order of the Jesters, because the Jesters also, their little saying is mirth is king, and they still claim tax exempt status. So they're not only, because most of these tax exempt things are tax exempt because they do philanthropic work. Royal Order of the Jesters do zero philanthropic work. They even say it. They're like, hey, we did all the philanthropic work in Shriners and Freemasons, so we don't have to do shit. All we're gonna do is party. Like they even clearly state that. And the government is still enabling them by allowing them to just, all they do is party. So all the money they're hiding there, it's just to do, like, they're not even trying to be good. Like, there's just so another interesting thing about in 1911 in Honolulu, Hawaii, which is where that step grandpa. Oh, good. Do you want to?
Just brought it up. That way people can sort of look at it and get some keywords if they want to go research it, or if you guys can contribute. We'd love if you guys left some stuff in the comments, or if you guys would reach out to Charlotte or I with additional information if you have it.
Yes, and we can do a Q&A like you were mentioning, like people can ask questions. Yeah. Yeah, so it started in Honolulu, Hawaii, which is where my great grandpa, who was in it, lived. So he was at the hub. He was not the start of the hub because he wasn't like he was probably a baby in 1911, but he joined, I think, 1940s. And he lived till 94. So I did meet him and his stupid brother who also followed the ranks. But the point is he was in the like powerful hub, which is also a theme in my family that we just end up in the places of the most, because for example, my dad, Bechtel, he San Francisco is the head corporation. Like the, like that's where he worked. A satellite office in Benicia, which again seems like, yes, it's my normal to be around all this, but also seems so benign, right? Like but it's when you line everything up, considering my memories and my body symptoms, because the body never lies. It's just bah. Side note, it would be real nice if the justice system counted body memories at all. I will say there's a victory in Europe. This one person who was polyfragmented dissociative identity disorder, she actually, her testimony was part of the proof, prosecutable proof, which is her alters got to testify. There was elements of ritual abuse and all sorts of things, and she prosecuted her fucking dad. He actually ended up confessing too. So, yeah, and she's a survivor of organized abuse. So it would be really helpful if survivors were allowed to have part of the proof be the fucking symptomology. Yeah, but it's just so, I don't know if we'll get in your comments because your audience seems a lot cooler than like the general public, but, or, real. Um, is that they'll say, oh, but that's just going to lead to so many liars coming forward and so many like people are going to be falsely accused. Like, yes, but also no, because if I actually have the symptomology, which I do, that's not lies. That is 0% lies. I would not have this symptomology if I didn't have the history I have and abused by the players I was abused by. So it should be allowed as proof, but it's not right now. But there was a case where she won in Europe, so they're starting. Ah.
Thing.
So Hope Core. So, anyways, Royal Order of the Jesters. He was in the main hub, and then he was the one also who rose through the ranks in Shell real quick and was hanging out with the CEO all of a sudden. I'm almost positive the Shell, whoever was in charge of Shell in the 1940s, he was a jester. I'm almost positive, because how else would he meet my jester person? Like you get powerful and then you're going to get more networked, right? And so, just side note, I think that great grandpa killed his first wife. And also, like, yeah, because I was reading in the letters, I have so many letters that I found on my archaeological dig to my grandparents after they died, and found all these documents. I've read all their letters, and the wife, she seemed so hopeful. She would write his mom, and who seems like a cult leader per some religion. I have not deep dived into that connection, but there's also a connection there. So there's Freemasons, Shriners, Royal Order of the Jesters, Shell, and some sort of religious cult thing I have not been able to figure out yet and piece together, because there's very sparse on that. I'm not talking about like LDS. I'm not sure. There's something there. But see, that's the connections, right? There's something there. But anyway, so the wife was right. It seemed so full of life and so hopeful, and had all these ideas and stuff, and a part of things and friends and taking care of her son. And it's real sad, right? Or I mean, it was really beautiful at first. And then out of the blue, she dies. And there's some letters, and so why I think there was a murder is because there's some letters where her husband, so my great grandpa, was writing his mom saying, hey, can you get her to sign the life insurance policies? Like, could you just, she has hesitation, but I know she'll listen to you. And then shortly thereafter, a few months later, she dies. And how she dies is suspicious. It goes by she killed herself, but she didn't die so what happened per the husband's letter to his mom? He says, She tried killing herself. She drank poison. She woke him in the hospital and was like, I don't remember drinking poison. Like, I don't know how it happened. And then he's like, and she had cancer, but she didn't die from the cancer. It was going to be removed, a simple operation, but maybe that's why she tried killing herself. But she died like a week later after the suicide attempt, which also doesn't make sense because she was in the hospital getting fixed from the poison and then she dies. It's like the murder attempt didn't work and then he tried again. And then very shortly after, so he came into money, right? Life insurance policy. It was kind of weird that she died that way. And then he married a new wife very shortly after, much decades younger than he was and his previous wife. And he sent his son away because the cops started investigating. And he's like, how cops are so pesky? I'm just going to send my son to California. Can you fucking, I don't obviously have proof, although I want to get justice for her. So we'll see. So I just want to say, you were murdered. And I see that he was the one who murdered you. Allegedly, whatever. But I want her spirit to know that. So we got all that. And that's him, like the kind of man he was, where I'd even believe he murdered, but it also it's pretty obvious to me. And then my dad's side, so we got Dartmouth. Oh, my grandma on my mom's side is Mensa. So she's, documented genius. And then my mom went to Brown and Harvard. And Harvard is also a big, yeah. And she was the first, she grew up poor and then she ended up with, my grandma was a young mother and there's just and then the whole thing, she ended up with my grandpa on that side and he ended up in the Navy and magically rose the ranks. So, and by that there was just the story, it's just like he just boom went so fast in the ranks and rose. It's us. He's not he's not particularly smart, or he wasn't, he's not particularly skilled in anything. It didn't make sense, It's just so that's another kind of sus thing. And they're Benicia tied. There's a long history of that family living in Benicia, growing up in Benicia, many generations in Benicia, and they got very connected politically in Benicia. So there's the Benicia. So that's mom's side. Again, back to my dad's side, we got millionaires on that side. We got the mafia story situation of being gambling debt and being chased to Florida. Sounds crazy, but here we are. We got Dartmouth, Princeton. My dad went to Princeton and he went at the time where the CIA was actively recruiting people. I'm not saying he ever became as part of the CIA, but what I am saying is that the government was actively there looking at people. And my dad was extremely brilliant, really good at what he was doing. And then after he graduated, he got a government job, like a special project that was very selective. They only picked, they interviewed a ton of people, only picked one person. You had to be very talented. And then he got involved in the Department of Energy. So that was kind of an in. And then a person tied to my dad that he knew for a long time was connected to NASA. I'll just end there for now. We'll have to go into another time. And that's involved in Florida stuff as well. So there's that connection. And then, so there's a lot on both sides. And then Bechtel. They're a big Bechtel. So there you go. Was that enough information?
Absolutely, yes. And I want to share real quick, just here's the wiki page for Bechtel. Of course, Wikipedia, we know it's not the most reliable. However, it's sort of like what people, reference information from. So I just want to show you, when I was reading Charlotte's testimony that she sent, and she had mentioned this company being a part of her family and how it was a mega corporation, I was like, wow, I've heard of a lot of mega corporations and I've never heard of this. And this is a massive American engineering company that worked on massive projects like the Hoover Dam, just so many different projects. And I couldn't believe that I had never heard of it. And I'll scroll down just a little bit so you guys can see a couple of or just see kind of like the list of projects that they worked on. I mean, there's so much information about this company on here, but Hoover Dam, we have Channel Tunnel, lots of different tunnels, lots of different sort of underground projects, metropolitan train, massive. And I mean, if you guys have been to the Hoover Dam, I've been there multiple times. That is a massive project too. And nowhere in Hoover Dam, at least from what I saw, I've been there multiple times and I've read all the different, signages that are around and have looked through it. And I didn't see anything about Bechtel being a part of it. They have this whole other narrative that they present. But it's kind of like this hidden company that really, Charlotte has a couple books she can recommend on it, and we'll do a deeper dive on it. But if you guys want to research that and can contribute any information, or if anybody, again, has ties to this company in any way, if it's part of your story, if you're a survivor, if you, or even if you're not and you know any information on it, leave it in the comments or connect with us. We're kind of trying to put some, especially Charlotte, of course, but I'd be curious if you guys have some puzzle pieces on the other side that could maybe help her. And for you guys too, to just look into this company. It's been a part of a lot of different projects all over the world. And it's something that I don't think many of us have heard of. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing that. And it has, so big oil is a part of it. Allegedly, whatever, but I do believe that they are a huge part of our wars as a country, the US, a huge part of wars in the Middle East and all over the place, because a huge part of it is, same with Shell. Shell is a huge part of keeping things. It's not just the oil. There's also guns, trafficking, there's all sorts of things that they're involved in. They have died a lot of, World War II. They contract with DARPA. That's another little fun fact. Some of it's out, the information you can find in line of what they're saying they're doing with DARPA. They have a lot of patents for emerging technology, specifically with underground tunneling, which makes sense because that's a lot of what they do. They work on pipelines, and pipelines are often put underground, for to protect from the environment and all this stuff. Yeah, and they worked a lot in Benicia on those things too. There's a lot of all over California, all over I was gonna say universe, but practically. And so they also have ties to NASA, and I imagine now, what is it, Starlink? What is fucker Elonia's, whatever his companies are, which also Neuralink, I want to talk about brain computer interfaces, BCIs, brain implants and stuff, at a deep dive eventually. A lot to say about that too. So this shit's, and okay, so some of the books, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll get this off.
Okay, some of the books, this is normal on your side, right? Because it's backwards on mine, but you can read it.
Yep, it's normal. Yep.
Okay, Friends in High Places, the most secret corporation and how it engineered the world. So this is back in the 1980s. They were already trying to get whistleblowers were starting. Even though it says it's a bestseller, it was pushed underground, pun intended, pretty quick. And then a more recent book, The Profiteers, Bechtel and the Men Who Built the World. This is more recent information just about how nefarious they are. And I have other survivors of Bechtel kind of stuff. So they're involved in a lot of things that I don't know if I'm ready to go deeper into some things yet, but they're just not. The information that is out there is pretty bad. And so I'd imagine, and per my memories and another survivor I'm in touch with, there's some other shit they're doing that's not great. So fuck you, Bechtel. There's also,
that was my sort of assumption too, just because you hear about companies like BlackRock, or there's another company that a survivor and a father who's battling family court has talked about, called Maximus Inc., which runs the family court system that people don't know about. There's all these major corporations that are almost like an umbrella or a shadow over the narrative that they tell us.
Yep.
They give us the public a story, but they don't say who's overseeing all of it. That's invisible to us. We're just kind of presented this single narrative. So Bechtel's one of those companies. People have heard of the projects they've worked on, but they haven't heard of them.
Right? It's absolutely just, and it's just absolutely evil.
And most of the time, that's not a good thing. Whenever there's secrets, just secret societies,
You think that they'd want to be like, hey, look, it's free advertising. Like, look at what we're doing, like, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. And I can't remember if I think Bechtel Senior, so the guy who started it or whatever, he was a Freemason, 32nd degree, I believe is documented. Yeah, surprise. He's an engineer. A lot of engineers is a masonry engineer. Like they kind of just flock to that. But in this one, they talk about Bohemian Grove connections. I mean, their headquarters is in San Francisco. Both Bohemian Grove Club and Bechtel. So it kind of makes sense that they'd be a part of that.
And now
So
on this wiki page, it says in 2017, Bechtel ranked 8th on Forbes list of America's largest private companies by revenue. And I think you said this company is funded publicly, but it's considered a private company, right?
it's both. So that's the thing I
Yeah.
thought was really, so they hide a lot of assets. So they're fucking like, obviously they want more money that they don't have to spend out of their probably like trillions or whatever the fuck, definitely hundreds of billions, whatever the fuck they have. So they have IPOs. So they became public to get investors in a lot of projects. So you think you'd know about them because they are public, but most of their money is private, just in the family. So they have two, I forget what it was, but they have two, it's in two things. So they hide most of their things, but they disclose enough to get a lot of money.
Really fascinating.
It's absolutely fascinating, disgusting. And that makes me think of my dad has 2 patents, or had him 2 patents, and one he filed in the US and one he filed in Canada. My dad never lived it. Like, there's no reason. Canada made no sense, except only discover you have to disclose less information if you file a patent in different places. So Canada is less, you have to, and it was involving Bechtel stuff, but it was also interesting. He was working for Bechtel. And so most of the time when an employee comes up with a new product, the company will have some sort of contract where the patent will actually go to the company. But the company usually has to disclose more information about it if the company has the patent. So my dad has the patent. He's less obligated legally to disclose information. So they have different ways they hide information.
And so, you guys, for today, Charlotte was going to talk about the background and history of her story. We actually have plans to do a ton of episodes. We lined them all out today before we talked, and we're going to break down Bechtel. We're going to do a whole episode on the Freemasonry, Royal Order of the Jesters, on these different parts of her life. And I'm really, really excited for it. So we're going to have her as a recurring guest and do a lot of sort of deep dives, and then also really just outlining her testimony and taking our time with it. However, before we close up, Charlotte is on TikTok, which is incredible. And I can't wait to talk about that part of her journey, whistleblowing and deciding to use that platform to speak out. But Charlotte, I wanted to just hand it over to you. If you just want to talk for a minute or so about your TikTok and what the handle is, where people can find you, the type of content you're putting out. I think it's amazing what you're doing on there. And I really want people to go on there and follow you.
Thank you so much again for giving me this. Oh, thank you for pulling that up. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so my page is again about, so it's really about sharing my testimony. I really, the goal is to get connected to other survivors, to let survivors know you aren't alone. Also, for me, going public and speaking out through a variety of reasons, I am led up to the moment I am in, like, the position where me speaking out, even though I am being gang stalked, is actually safer than me not speaking out. I just want to be clear. A lot of survivors never speak publicly. And I want those survivors to know you never have to speak publicly. It's whatever you feel comfy with. It doesn't mean you have to get to a certain point to be considered like you're far enough along in your healing, or somehow that has to be your end goal. You existing is part of the solution and how we're going to take these motherfuckers down. I am, again, for a variety of reasons I'll get into later about why I'm speaking public and now, and that journey of my TikToks. But through many years of healing and working on the shame, I've come to this page of just kind of being done with keeping the abuser's secrets. And there's a lot of reasons that I am at that point, and again, why I'm able to publicly. And I want to just highlight of many survivors who they judge themselves for not going public. And yet the fact they even come to my page and relate to it, that's part of the solution. So you are healing loudly. I just want to, and it takes all types and all forms, and I'm really proud of you too. And a huge part of this page has been an incredible journey. I had one before this, it got banned, but I was on it for a few years. But this one has really been centered on my Ramkoa experiences. So the ritual abuse, the mind control, the organized extreme abuse. The other one was way more generalized, as I was still needing to get to certain points to heal where I could talk more publicly in a way where I wouldn't decompensate and just like suicide programming and stuff like that going off. I needed to heal more parts and believe myself more and get to points. I'm just very, very blessed by how many people, the right people coming in my life at the right times. And a huge point or reason I'm doing this is because on my previous page, I met another survivor who, because I spoke, she started getting vocal. And then this other survivor watched her page. That survivor did not go public, but what she did do is started believing in herself enough to go report it to the motherfucking police. And this police actually did not fail her. They ended up saving 8 people that were children currently being trafficked. I think it was in Utah. Yeah, so you never know who's gonna, and again, on that line of talking, not everyone spoke publicly. So whatever you're doing is perfect. And I'm so grateful I have the opportunity to do this, even though I get people, you get a lot of hate. I'm lucky that when I posted that one that has 5.2 million on it with "you see my piece of shit dad," pretty much across the board on that one, I got nothing but people who affirmed it's pretty clear when you watch that video, but there's still a lot of people who gaslight. And on my other page, most people gaslight it. Not most, because I met a lot of survivors, but it's just interesting to note the shift that's happened. And I feel very lucky because when that one got banned, I almost stopped doing a TikTok. And TikTok has been, I eventually want to do YouTube, but TikTok is a big one. So yeah, fuck that dude. Look how creepy. And he's holding my crotch there. And there's bruises. Someone pointed out there's bruises on where I was strapped down, and then and my sibling is on a lot of those pictures and other pictures I have. And he has black eyes. It almost looks like it was broken. Yeah, so but again, that's my sibling's story, and they are just starting to remember. But yeah. Cute. I know,
you were
so
precious. Excited. Look at
Thank you. I know. And it's really interesting. So that's an altar midnight. And I'm surprised I was able to have that expression, because most of the time it had to be business as usual and everything's fine. Most of the pictures of the child, if you know what to look for, I'm dead inside. But it's just really, I know, look at precious baby.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to be a whistleblower, and you never know, by you talking, you existing, you recalling your own story, you're helping people inside yourself, because most of us have dissociative identity disorder, and you're helping the baby you once were, and you're helping others. So I am very honored that I've been able to help, just be able to help, and I get to rescue myself and other people. And look at his gross face. And so many people love his face, but it's a shitty face. You nasty pee drinking fuck.
But you're right, though. People would look at him, and he doesn't look like your typical criminal that they show us on TV or in movies. He looks just like a normal dad, or a guy that just goes to work every day or goes to the beach. He doesn't overtly scream predator until you see these pictures, and like you said, know what to look for.
Yeah, it's really scary. And I was just, the whole gamut about how they say, oh, you're just too sensitive. It's weird that they even kept those pictures, because clearly I'm uncomfortable. Even if he didn't rape me, clearly your child, put your fucking child down. And then that's a weird picture to want to keep. We can break down later, because I do have to go. But
absolutely,
that's part of it. This is part of the gaslighting, where they're just it's a whole fucking crazy. It's just weird. So, anyways. Yeah, I'm excited to do more. Yeah, this is my TikTok. Please go follow,
or at least _healing, or you can type in Shar Redemption, and that's CHAR for Charlotte. She's amazing, and like she said, you don't have to be public. She has a message button here if you guys want to chat with her privately, anonymously. connect with her. That's one of the beautiful things about online too, and public whistleblowers is if you are anonymous, now you don't have to be alone. You can find people publicly who can help bring you into a circle privately, and you can still connect. You can still be public in your own little way with a small group and with people that you choose to disclose with. So please go follow her talk. Yeah.
One last thing is that that's one of the reasons international study of dissociation and other big psychologically at large things that are set up to help survivors, they work so hard to take down and discredit survivors who are speaking up on TikTok, which is sus. So just, I'm glad we can, not be isolated anymore, and we can find each other and heal together.
Yes. And we're going to do a whole deep dive on that topic too, on infiltration and survivor communities.
Yeah. So
Charlotte, it's an honor to have you on. You're just incredible, and you're such an inspiration, a beacon of hope, and just your story of overcoming is incredible. So thank you with all my heart for coming on today.
Well, thank you for being you and allowing me to be a part of this. It's really, really, really amazing.
I'm excited to do this whole series with you. And you guys, please leave your comments below. Like I said, I'll have Charlotte's TikTok in the show notes. I'll have all my contact information. You guys are the wheel that keeps us going. So thank you guys so much for listening, for supporting. Bless you all, and we will see you next time.